Though this season has had its ups and downs for the Dallas Mavericks, their point guard Luka Doncic seems to be having one of the best years of his career. Head coach Jason Kidd had some interesting things to say about the almost effortless performance from the Slovenian, and apart from racking up points on the scoreboard, Doncic has apparently been improving his defensive stats too. We'll be covering all of that in today's video. First up, Doncic's defense claims. Luka Doncic has been the star player for the Dallas Mavericks this season, even when the team was suffering. Doncic was always turning in a solid performance. There's no arguing against the power he brings to the Mavericks offense. The problem, although, was his defense. During the playoffs this year, it seemed like Doncic was an easy target. It seemed like all they wanted to do was set him up for pick and rolls when he was on defense. Jason Kidd, the head coach for the Mavericks, spoke to reporters midway through the team's second run series against the Phoenix Suns. According to Kidd, it's pretty obvious what's going on. The teams are just going to keep the focus on Doncic and have him in all the pick and rolls. He likened it to what happened with Dirk Nowitzki, who was also regularly the target of pick and roll strategies. Eventually, Nowitzki did put a stop to that, shutting down those unsuspecting attackers. It seems like Doncic was paying attention to Kidd during that interview, as he seems to have adjusted himself considering what was said this season. In an interview with the Daily Morning News, Doncic said that though others might not admit it, he thinks he's taken a big step in bettering that aspect of his game. He said he believes in himself and that he's been playing stronger defense than he has in the first 4 years of his career. Coming up, the true statistics. At first, you might just think the 23-year-old's just honking his own horn here without really looking at his game objectively, but the thing is, the stats add up. If you look at his defensive statistics, it really does show a solid improvement over his past record. At the moment, Doncic has achieved a career-high 1.8 steals per game. That personal best just so happened to be tied for the 4th highest mark in the league. Then you have his deflections. So far, his average deflections per game is 3.5. That means he's currently tied for 7th place in the league, ahead of some of the league's finest defenders in Jimmy Butler, Drew Holiday, and Herbert Jones. But what's most impressive is the fact that he's pretty much proven himself to be a great defensive rebounder for his position. According to Cleaning the Glass, with an average of 7.9 points per game, he's the best rebounding point guard in the entire league. Still, it's not all sunshine and rainbows for Doncic. If you look at any advanced statistics, you'll see that overall his defensive impact is generally neutral or even on the negative side of things. According to the composite ranking system that averages out other statistics, Doncic ranks at number 276 out of a total 494 players, making him rank somewhere in the middle. But considering the fact that he was considered a small fry on defense, having him play at an average level now is definitely an improvement. Next, Doncic on the court. If you really want to know how a player stacks up in the league, all you have to do is watch them work. Looking at Doncic's film reel from this season certainly shows that the 23-year-old has generally been playing a better defensive game than last season. The problem is that it's still pretty inconsistent. What can be said about the Slovenian right now is that he has pretty good coordination with his hands, and he's got sharp eyes to go with it. The combination means he's able to rack up steals and deflections with a lot of ease, but he still has his downsides. For one, because of his tendencies to give up terrible blow-bys due to a lack of lateral agility, he's not going to be good on the perimeter anytime soon. It can also be noted that as games go on, Doncic tends to get fatigued when he's on defense. That's because whenever he's on offense, he's always going hard. The team attempts to conserve his energy by having him switch regularly rather than having him chase guards and fight through screens. When you look at the data on his movement, those observations ring true. From the NBA's tracking data, we can see that Doncic is actually the second slowest defender in the league. Within the last 5 games, Chris Paul is the only person slower than him, and he's 37 years old. Doncic also has trouble getting back into transition, and that just makes the stat worse. Now for Doncic in the playoffs. The big question on everyone's minds right now, whether or not things will remain the same this playoff season. There isn't any doubt that teams are going to try and capitalize off his historically poor defense, but since he's improved things, maybe he'd prove that they can no longer count on that strategy anymore. Well, so far that seems like it's the case. When the Mavericks went up against the Golden State Warriors, the Warriors forced Doncic into screening action multiple times down the stretch of a one-possession game. That strategy forced him to switch to Stephen Curry. Curry's the best at what he he does, and in earlier seasons, this probably would have led to the destruction of the Mavericks. But this is a new season, and it's a new Doncic. The Slovenian held his own when he switched to Curry, and he managed to execute the team's plan without a problem. He even managed a couple of steals down the stretch. So it's clear that Doncic isn't going to roll over on defense as he did in the past seasons. But we can't be certain that he's going to turn in games like this consistently. That's always been his problem. There are times when he can pull off something great, but they were always too few and far between. But this season, he seems to have come in clutch at just the right moments. The hope is that it's enough to keep the Mavericks going through the postseason. Moving on, Kid on Doncic's game. The match between the Warriors was more than just a win for the Mavericks, it was a statement. And headlining that statement was Luka Doncic. Thanks to Doncic and his amazing ability to make plays and score points, the Mavericks dominated the Warriors, leading to a victory of 116 to 113. 41 of those points were by the Slovenian's hand, shooting 14 to 27 from the field. He also had a total of 12 rebounds and 12 assists throughout the game. Not only was this a 40-plus point triple-double, but it's his third of the season. Compare that to the other players of the league, except you can't because no other player has even won. Considering how hard Doncic is going on offense and what he's done for the Mavericks, it's no wonder that so many people expect him to be named MVP for the year. Following the match, Coach Kidd responded sarcastically to an ESPN interviewer, saying that he was getting bored of watching Doncic play now. Maybe if he did something different, like use his left hand, he'd take more of an interest. That's because Doncic has been putting in solid performances on offense game after game. Kidd said that he's one of the best in the world, and it's just expected of him at this point. He jested that they might be taking him for granted, but the truth's that Doncic has significantly elevated the Mavericks since he's been on board. Lastly, praising the Slovenian. There's really no shortage of people that think Doncic is spectacular right now. Even his Warriors rival Stephen Curry couldn't help but speak about how great the young Slovenian is on the court. In his post-game interview, he said that Doncic's size and ball handling skills are enough to keep any team on their toes. And on top of that, he's also a 3-level scorer, so he can pretty much do everything, and that makes defending him really hard. Curry also gushed about his court vision, saying that the combination of him being a playmaker and a scorer made it really hard for the Warriors to keep up, especially since he was constantly hitting shots. They really wanted to cut him down a size, but Doncic was constantly making plays and stumping them. Thanks to his performance in this match, he is now just the 6th player in the history of the NBA to log 5 or more 40-plus point triple-doubles. That puts him up there with the greats like James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Wilt Chamberlain, and LeBron James. Apart from that nifty stat, he also managed to tie Dirk Nowitzki's franchise record for most 40-point games played as a Maverick. Considering he's just 23 years old right now, there's no telling how high Doncic is going to fly. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think that Doncic has significantly improved his defensive game? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're down there, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you at the next one.